When my mom called me into the living room that evening, I knew something was off. She had that tight smile she used whenever she wanted to convince me that something unfair was actually perfectly reasonable. My dad sat beside her, arms crossed, avoiding my eyes. And my sister, Emma, sat on the edge of the couch, nervously twisting her wedding ring. I sat across from them, quietly waiting for the announcement they were so obviously rehearsing in their heads. Mom cleared her throat first. "Sweetheart, we need to talk about something important," she began, her voice soft in a way that almost always preceded bad news. I nodded, letting her continue. "You know your sister has been trying for a baby for a long time. It's been a very emotional journey for her and for all of us." Emma sniffed dramatically, as if on cue. I stayed silent. I already had a feeling where this was going, but I wanted to hear them say the words. Dad chimed in next. "IVF is extremely expensive. Insurance doesn't cover it. And Emma, she really deserves this chance." He said it like it was a universally agreed fact, like gravity or sunrise. Mom folded her hands. "We didn't want to burden her or Mark financially. They've already spent so much. So, we made a decision." She inhaled deeply. "We used your college fund to help pay for her IVF treatments." For a moment, the whole room seemed to freeze. They stared at me expectantly, waiting for tears, anger, maybe even gratitude. They thought I'd say it was okay. They thought I'd be the good, quiet child who swallowed everything with a smile. Instead, I smiled slowly, calmly, almost politely, because it was the only thing holding me back from laughing. After everything they had done over the years to prioritize my sister, this was almost predictable. Emma's needs, Emma's dreams, Emma's comfort, my life had always been the currency used to buy them. Mom leaned forward eagerly, taking my smile as acceptance. "We knew you'd understand. You've always been so mature. And don't worry, we'll figure out something for your education eventually. Maybe you can work for a few years, save up, take loans, there are lots of options." I kept smiling. My heartbeat was steady, my voice didn't waver. I simply looked her in the eye and said one word, "Okay." The room shifted immediately. My mom blinked fast, confused by the absence of drama. Dad uncrossed his arms. Emma's eyebrows dipped. They had expected a fight they were prepared to win, or tears they could dismiss, or forgiveness they didn't deserve. But, okay, was not in their script. It unsettled them. Mom recovered first. Good, good. "See, I knew you'd be reasonable." I nodded, still calm. They thought my acceptance meant compliance. They didn't know that, okay, meant acknowledgement, not approval. It meant I understood who they really were. It meant I had finally reached clarity. Over the next few weeks, I quietly rearranged my life. I applied for student housing independently. I spoke to financial aid officers. I researched grants, part-time jobs, and scholarships. I met with advisors at my school and explained only what I needed to, that my financial circumstances had changed. I never told them what my parents did, because I didn't want pity or interference. This was my life now, and I intended to build it myself. On the home front, things got stranger. My parents kept waiting for me to break down or ask for help or apologize for being distant. I wasn't distant, I was simply done. Emma kept calling me dramatic, even though I hadn't said a single complaint. She told relatives that I was being cold, because I didn't support her motherhood journey. I didn't bother defending myself. People who wanted to misunderstand me would do it even if I handed them a dictionary. The day I moved out, my parents didn't even know it was happening. I packed quietly, early in the morning, loading my things into a friend's car. When I walked into the kitchen with my backpack, Mom was sitting at the table, sipping coffee. She smiled. "Going somewhere?" "Yes," I said. "I'm moving out." Her mug clattered against the table. "What? Why? We haven't even talked about this." I shrugged. "You made a financial decision about my future without me. I'm making a personal decision about my future without you." Dad walked in, overhearing. "Stop being dramatic," he snapped. "Families help each other." I looked at him calmly. "Exactly. Families help each other. Not just one person. Emma appeared in the doorway, already irritated. Are you seriously doing this? Over one choice Mom and Dad made for the good of our family. I looked at her with a strange, quiet sympathy. It wasn't one choice. It was every choice. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I didn't argue. I simply walked out. A week later, I received a message from my mom. We miss you. Please come home so we can talk. I replied with the same word I had given her the day she told me about the college fund. Okay, but this time, I didn't go back. When my parents told me they needed to talk, I already sensed the familiar weight of expectation settling over the room. It was always the same pattern. My sister Emma struggled, and somehow my life was expected to bend around hers. I didn't resent her. I resented the way my family treated her life like a priceless vase and mine like bubble wrap to be popped whenever needed. Still, I sat down quietly, waiting for the new crisis that would inevitably become my responsibility. Mom folded her arms, her expression a mix of guilt and determination. Dad leaned on the back of a chair, and Emma sat with an air of helplessness she had perfected over the years. Their silence dragged on, as if they were hoping I'd guess or volunteer assistance before they even spoke. I didn't. I simply said, "What's going on?" Mom exhaled slowly. Your sister has been going through a lot. You know how much she's been trying to have a baby. She said it in that tone that wasn't asking for sympathy, it was demanding it. Emma lowered her eyes, and Dad stepped in. IVF is very expensive. And they can't afford another round. This might be her last chance. I waited. They hadn't said the actual part yet. They always danced around the edges first, easing themselves into the justification. Mom finally decided to rip the bandage off. We think you should help her. Your savings, your plans, well, they can wait. But her opportunity to become a mother is time sensitive. I blinked, letting their words settle. They stared at me like I was supposed to open my wallet out of instinct, like a reflex. Like obedience. You want me to give her my savings? I asked, just to make sure we weren't playing charades. Dad nodded, relieved I'd said it for them. Yes, it's the right thing to do for family. Emma finally spoke, her voice trembling in a rehearsed way. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. You know how much this means to me. The room held its breath. They waited for me to crumble under emotional pressure the way I used to when I was younger. But I had learned something crucial as I grew up. Sacrifice means nothing when it's always one-sided. I thought about the trips I never got because Emma needed money for something. The school events I missed because my parents were busy with her emergencies. The birthday I spent alone because she'd had a minor meltdown and everyone rushed to comfort her. I thought about all the times my dreams were delayed, minimized, or dismissed to make room for hers. Mom mistook my silence for hesitation. Sweetheart, you're still young. You have time to rebuild. Your sister doesn't. That was the moment something inside me clicked. Not anger, not sadness, just clarity. I smiled gently, not sarcastically, not bitterly. Just a small, calm smile that made them relax for a second. They thought I was agreeing. They thought they'd won. Then I said a single word. No. The air shifted instantly. Mom looked like she'd been slapped. Dad froze, and Emma's mouth fell open. Mom tried to laugh, as if she misheard me. What do you mean, no? I mean no, I repeated calmly. I'm not giving you my savings. Dad's voice rose. Don't be selfish. This is your sister. And I'm me, I replied. And I matter too. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but not the real kind. So you're okay with me never becoming a mother? I met her gaze without flinching. I'm okay with my life not being sacrificed every time you want something. Dad muttered under his breath about disrespect. Mom accused me of being cold. Emma insisted that I was ruining her future. They talked over each other, voices climbing higher, more frantic, more desperate. The storm grew louder, but I stayed perfectly still, perfectly calm, perfectly in control. It was the first time in my life that I didn't feel like shrinking. I didn't feel obligated. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Eventually, they realized I wasn't budging. The shouting turned into accusations. The accusations turned into guilt tripping. Then, finally, The guilt-tripping turned into silence. A heavy, uncomfortable silence that meant they no longer knew how to manipulate me. I stood up to leave. Mom grabbed my wrist. "If you walk away now, don't expect us to help you with anything in the future." I gently pulled my hand back. "You already don't." Her face crumpled, but I didn't stay to comfort her. I walked out of the house quietly, closing the door behind me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was simply a choice, one that I had every right to make. Over the next few days, the calls started. First from Mom, begging me to reconsider. Then from Dad, demanding I reconsider. Then from Emma, accusing me of destroying her life. I listened to none of them. I didn't block them either. I just let the messages sit there, unread and unanswered. Silence speaks loudly when people are used to you whispering, yes. A week later, Emma sent a final message. "I hope you're happy. You made your choice." I looked at the words for a long moment. Then I typed back a single word. Exactly. For the first time in years, the choice was mine, and I wasn't apologizing for it.